Today we're going to learn all about continuous cover forestry, where you can cut down trees, make things from the wood, but keep the forest there forever. We're going to meet a real life forester. So let's go do that now. All right, here we are in a lovely forest in the shade of the summer heat, and I'm here with a real life forester called Manus. Manus, thank you for having us down here today.
Cheers, Dan.
So Manus, yeah, you're a forester, and you're someone who comes and manages the forest and figures out what the forest is going to look like, how you're going to take care of it. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works and how you became a forester?
Yeah, so I'm a forestry consultant. Give me my full title.
Of course.
And, so I plant, harvest and manage forests for landowners and farmers all across Ireland.
Okay.
We grow forests principally for timber production,
Yes.
but also protection of habitat, climate change, providing all these multiple functions from a forest.
Yes, so this forest here, its main job kind of is to make timber for building houses and stuff?
Yeah, for construction grade timber.
Okay.
This is the main commercial forestry tree we have in Ireland, which is Sitka spruce.
Yes.
It's actually from the Pacific Northwest of America.
Yeah.
And it's just really good at growing timber.
Okay, yeah, because I do hear some negatives here and there. People kind of, have a bad image kind of some of these trees, and I do understand that, from a certain perspective. But I've heard that there's a particular way that you manage forests that is a bit different from the normal way, and it's a little bit nicer for nature.
Yeah. So some of the negative opinions people have about forestry, it's not necessarily about the type of tree that's here. It's more about the way they're managed. So most forests in Ireland are managed under what's called a clear fell system. So the trees are planted, they grow for about 15 years, they start thinning them every, say, 5 years. And then at about year 30, 35, the whole forest is cut down and turned into timber.
Yeah, that looks kind of like a desert when I look at it. I don't think it looks very nice to see these huge areas of vast...
It's a very harsh impact on the landscape. And one of the major problems with clear felling is the whole forest is removed, all the soils are exposed, it starts raining, the soils are washed into these little drains that we have here in the forest. That's soil and silt is washed downstream into other rivers and can affect our aquatic life and special areas of conservation.
Okay, so it has an impact all downstream. And wait, I think you said that you also studied as an ecologist, is that right?
I did, yeah. So I had an unusual path into forestry. Most people, when they do forestry, they study forestry straight in university, whereas I actually studied ecology first. Environmental biology is called. And
so you understand a little bit more about the animals and the plants and all this connection to the forest.
I'm kind of lucky in that sense. A lot of foresters wouldn't necessarily have the kind of ecological understanding, whereas it's fundamental to managing forests, and a lot of foresters are now kind of upskilling themselves to be more aware of ecology and the potential impacts that what we do can have on the landscape.
But hold on, if you're so into plants and animals and the forest and all this stuff, why do you go cutting down trees? Surely it's bad to be cutting down trees. We're not supposed to cut them down.
Well, who said we're not supposed to cut them down?
I don't know. Do you not hear that around the place?
Look, trees are planted to be managed, a small tree grows into a big tree, but the only way for it to grow into a big tree is if you remove another tree to give it space. I don't know if you've ever planted carrots. And
I have.
Very simple analogy is you thin carrots to allow the other trees to grow, the other carrots to grow.
You've told me that today you're going to teach me all about a method of forestry that's called continuous cover forestry, where you don't cut it down. Could you give me a look at some examples of some trees that you would manage in that way?
Yeah, I'll show you over here now. We can have a look at how we'd select a tree for continuous cover.
Let's do that. All right, Manus, so show us what you would do here. You're going to pick a tree. How would you know?
Yeah. So we actually walk ahead of the harvesters and we select which trees are to be harvested. I don't have one with me today, but we usually have a spray can and you mark the trees. We put a slash on the tree for the harvester to see it. So in a continuous cover forest, we want the trees to be here as long as possible. So I always imagine the forest it's almost like a conveyor belt, and you want small trees to grow into big trees.
Yes,
so
perfect.
Usually the target then is to remove large, poor quality trees and release these better, straighter trees behind us. So you can see the tree here at the back. It's a nice, fairly straight tree, very few side branches on it.
Okay. So it's a good tree.
It's a good tree, yeah. So you can imagine now when that gets to be a much bigger tree, it'll be a nice clean stem and less knots. So everywhere you see a branch creates a knot in the timber, which is harder for the...
And this one has many, many, many branches.
Lots of branches, yeah. So this is a bad tree. Sorry, tree now, but you're a bad one. So this tree would be selected to be removed. So literally I would put a spray on that, and we always look up into the top of the tree, into the crowns, and see how that's where the competition between trees occurs. Also below ground, but mostly up here.
Because that's where they're getting their energy, from the leaves up there. And so what, when you cut him down, that will have a positive effect on the other tree?
On the other trees, yeah. So you remove this tree, and all these trees then have space then to grow into that gap that was created. And it also allows increased light onto the forest floor. And maybe let some other kind of flora and stuff regenerate below it.
Well, could you show us somewhere where maybe you cut down a tree in the past and we can see some of that?
I can, yeah. There's a place just over here.
Let's have a look. All right, so here is what used to be a tree?
Yep, so this was a tree about 5 years ago or so when we last harvested this site. So this tree was picked to be removed. It's probably a poor quality, large tree.
Yes.
And by taking that out, we've given space to all these other trees around it. There was quite a large gap up in the canopy. You can still kind of see the gap, but the trees are now growing into that space, and you know, loads of extra light to grow and basically get bigger.
So this guy's gone. He's been sawed up, turned into some planks used in someone's house or a pallet or something like that. And now these ones are growing their branches to fill that space, and they get to grow bigger faster.
Yeah. And next time we'll pick another tree, you know, maybe this one here might be taken out the next time, you know, so you're always selecting ahead and thinking about which ones to come out.
Fantastic. And I see we also have lots of light that comes into the forest floor, so we get new little seedlings growing here. What kind of ones do we see?
So exactly like in a continuous cover forest, we want the forest to regenerate itself by the trees are dropping seed all the time. So as you manage the light levels, little seedlings will appear. Now in this case, we've a lot of native stuff regenerating. So we've whitethorn there, we've hollies coming up, mountain ash, some ash trees. And my dreaded friend, the briars.
Briars, lovely.
Everything has its place, but in some forests we have briars up to here, and it can be tricky.
Lots of fun. You want a big machete or something to get through that.
Exactly.
Lovely stuff. Well, this is great. I'm learning loads here, but I wonder, is there any sort of wildlife that lives in these forests? Could we maybe show me an example of that?
Yeah. I'll bring you over here and we can have a look at something there.
We're after finding some sort of an animal house here. Is it like a pig, goose, goat? What are we going to find in here?
This is lives one of our most elusive animals, the humble badger.
The badger, yes.
Yeah. So this is a badger set. It's a series of burrows kind of spread across an area here and right in the middle of the forest. So we have to be quite careful actually when we're harvesting in these areas that you don't disturb the badgers. So usually the harvesting machinery would have to kind of stay away from this area. I do put up marks on the trees to tell the harvester just be careful in this area.
Back to the badgers. And of course, if you're doing clear fell and you fell the whole forest, it's going to really have a negative effect on the badgers.
Exactly.
And if you have this continuous cover, the forest is always going to be here.
We're maintaining the habitat forever for the forest, and so the animals can live here happily and peacefully in the forest.
That sounds great to me. And is it just the animals here in the forest, or does it have any effect on any other animals further away?
There are some interesting animals that live in the rivers around here. There's a very unusual creature called a freshwater pearl mussel. It's a little small bivalve, if you know what that is. A type of shellfish that lives in our rivers here. Cool. Very long-lived creature, can live for 100 years or more.
100 years?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And the poor old pearl mussels, they are under a bit of pressure, particularly from forestry and kind of agricultural activities. So by practicing this CCF type forestry, there's less of an impact on the water and the aquatic environment, and protects the
will we go down and have a look at that stream?
There's a little small stream down here we can take a look at.
Let's do that. Okay, so this is a lovely little stream right down at the bottom of the hill where this forest is. And this is where you're saying that we have to be careful what gets in here because it can affect those pearl water mussels?
Freshwater pearl mussels.
Freshwater pearl mussels, yeah.
So this part of Carlow is known as a freshwater pearl mussel area because there's still populations of pearl mussel living in a river actually over that way. It's called the Mountain River, and that further flows into the River Barrow, which is a very important SAC in this area, Special Area Conservation.
Okay, special
So
area.
by holding the forest here, we're protecting this water course and stopping any little piece of silt or sediment from getting into this river and choking up the riverbed where the mussels live.
I noticed that the trees are a bit different out here as well. I see a lot of broadleaves.
Yeah. So what we're actually doing is we're trying to develop a kind of a native woodland buffer along this area.
Yes.
So we're favouring and keeping the native trees, and hopefully they'll start regenerating and replace the spruce in this area. So we'll have a lovely little protection zone here along this stream.
It's really lovely and calm and peaceful down here, and it's so nice. So if you were to do this clear fell where you cut them all, the soil would wash away, come down into this and do harm, but you do continuous cover forestry so that they can stay there, hold the soil in place. You put this buffer zone of this native woodland trees, and it's like all of this is really exciting stuff, I think, to be able to do, and to be a forester and actually plan all this and think about this and see the forests actually grow like this.
Yeah, so look, continuous cover forests, we see them as a kind of fulfilling multiple roles. You know, obviously producing timber is one of the main things that they do, creating habitat for animals, protecting water courses, protection of climate, even climate within the woodland. You can feel the temperature difference is completely different in here, has its own microclimate. But one of the other main functions of a forest is to be a beautiful place for us to come and enjoy, and a beautiful amenity for people.
Absolutely, it's lovely. I'll have to come down here again sometime and relax here and dip my toes in the stream here, I think. I've learned so much today, Manus, about continuous cover forestry, about how forests work, about what foresters actually do, how cutting down a tree isn't always bad, and how if anyone at home is interested in forest and forestry, they should totally look at it into a future career, because it sounds very cool to me, working in the forest. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Thanks so much for Manus for having us down, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next one.